What's interesting, though, is we're full circle. Sat on this sofa a year ago, Bella Bajaria sat there and talked about her new favorite program that had already had 10 million views in 4 days alone, and they'd already signed for the second series, and it was Nobody Wants This. But when we introduce you as executive producers on this show, there is so much more to this flywheel of the Foster sisters. This is no overnight success. So can I hear, first and foremost, I know neither of you like to talk about your accomplishments at length, but define yourselves, because you're almost the ultimate hyphenates of the fact that you're producers, you're designers, you're podcasters. Sarah, to you first. I throw the ball.
Oh, goodness. Okay, I guess. I know my 14-year-old the other day was like, what do you do? Yeah, I would say that our flywheel really includes, we're the founders of Favorite Daughter, which is a fashion brand that we launched in at the end of 2020.
2020, great year. I don't know if you
Great year to launch a brand.
Great year to launch a business. Yeah.
In-store moment.
So we're the founder of that. We're general partners at a venture fund that we founded called Oversubscribed Ventures. We have a podcast called The World's First Podcast, and we have a media company called Fatigue Sisters, because we're always fatigued.
Yeah.
And we produce television shows.
Okay, that was good. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Very well put. And succinctly, what's interesting is there is this idea, Nobody Wants This defined a moment, but as we say, it was no overnight success. I mean, I think about Barely Famous is how old? Like, barely a decade?
Are you going to age us right now? Yeah. We had a TV show that we created that was our first thing ever together, working together, that we wrote and produced called Barely Famous, and nobody watched it.
They should, because it's really funny. It's this joyous mockumentary almost about reality television.
Yeah, it was making fun of reality TV, and it was sort of our entree into producing and writing TV together.
It turns out no one's wanted to see us on screen since.
Yeah, that's also true.
We're going to dig into that a little bit later, because what's so interesting is you have been, I mean, Debs, I hate to age you, but what's that, 20 years old when you really took your first...
Okay, yeah.
Sarah's a lesbian icon. I don't know if you guys know about that, but she's a lesbian icon. You should look it up.
I did that movie in 2003, yeah.
And then, since then, there was the movies, there was the fashion brand. What's so interesting then is about, now let's go into our era of more, not just Barely Famous, but writing Nobody Wants This. When did you decide that your love story was what was going to be the fodder of your own mental productivity and creativity?
I've been a TV writer for 14 years, and you always write what you know. I mean, maybe someone who writes sci-fi doesn't write what they know, but I write what I know. And so I always wrote about my struggling, sad love life. And it always seemed to really resonate with women. And I always wrote about this tortured experience I was having while all my friends were settling down and having kids and getting married, and I was sort of the only one left out there to dry. So when...
so tiny violin, just here, just...
Yeah. But you know what? It was working for me. So then I met my husband, and I realized I was in my first real adult, lovely relationship, and I sort of felt creatively... dead inside. I was sort of like, I don't really know what's funny about this. I don't really know what to write about. But we were in an overall deal with Disney, with 20th, and they were paying us, so I had to think of something to write. And so I tried to think about what about this relationship could I grab onto for content. And I was in the middle of converting to Judaism, which was this fascinating process I was going through. And we kind of kicked it up a notch and thought, just marrying a Jewish guy in LA is not that deep. So what if we make him a rabbi? Then it'll be like real conflict. Because, it wasn't...
How did Simon feel about that? Just dialing up his...
I mean, he feels a few different ways about it. First and foremost, we're a very supportive partnership. He's very proud of me as his wife to have success in anything that I love to do and care about. But then on the other hand, he comes from a very private immigrant family, and the idea of me writing this was really hard for me to write because when I met Simon, I had just had this failed pilot that hadn't made it to TV. So he sort of knew me as a failed writer. It was called Daddy Issues.
Okay.
And it was about what you think it's about.
If anyone wants to so the script is sitting somewhere, the pilot is somewhere for consumption.
Please don't find it. I actually starred in that pilot, and it is not something I want you to see. But he met me and thought of me as, didn't think of me. He knew me as a writer who wasn't getting things on TV. And if you're in this industry, you know that you can make a good living never getting anything on the air. They pay you to write things that they don't make. And so when I was going to write about our life, it was very tricky for us. It was a bit uncomfortable. We had to find the balance. So I think partly making the character a rabbi pulled it away from our real life so that I didn't have to, write about our private conversations.
And I'm sure he's very thrilled at permanently being asked if he's actually a rabbi for the rest of his life.
No, we go to Shabbat dinners with friends, and someone will stumble on the prayers, and they're like, Simon? And he's like, I'm not a rabbi. I'm just a Jewish guy from San Francisco.
And Sarah, you laugh about nobody wanted you on screen. People did want you on screen, but from what I understand about the background of writing it, in many ways, Erin, you were writing it for you to be the part that Kristen Bell is, and for all those in the... can I just raise your hands? Have you seen Nobody Wants This? Yeah, we all know generally the story. We're seeing...
Why didn't you raise your hand? This is crazy. You're in the front row, and you didn't raise your hand. All right, well, I'm going to ask you about it tonight.
You should watch it, because it's hilarious. It's joyous.
Well, now you have to.
And it's optimistic at this time, but... You're not in it, either of you. So at what point,
Nobody wanted us.
Yeah.
No, I think Erin always, you can speak to how well you write sister dynamics, write what you know. I think there's always this thing of, okay, should we be in this? But I think we look at this the same way we kind of look at everything. 100% of nothing is not as good as, 50% of something.
Absolutely.
And boy, is it something.
You look at this and you're like, okay, with Erin and I starring in it, it's okay. But with Kristen Bell and Justine Loop starring in it,
much better.
It's much better.
But I think agreeing with Sarah is that...
Is this your water?
Yeah, you can have a sip if you'd like. Is that everything that we've ever done in our lives and in our careers, you have an idea of what you want your life to look like. You have an idea of what that next step is going to look like, and it's the perfect package. Yeah. And then sometimes the thing that is available to you is not what you thought it was going to be. And you have an opportunity to sort of swallow your pride and humble yourself and say, okay, well, this is an opportunity regardless of if it's how I saw it happening. Mm-hmm. And we are in the business of saying yes to opportunities. So if somebody wants to make a TV show that I'm going to write, that I get to create and be the voice of, but they say they don't want me in it, why would I ever fight for, again, like you said, 100% of something when it ended up being so much greater than I could have ever... I was thinking so small. I was not thinking on this scale whatsoever. And the truth is, after all these years of trying to write things for myself to star in, I really just wanted to be a mom. I had just gotten married. I had met the love of my life. I was 37 years old. I was desperately trying to get pregnant. And everything happened the way it was meant to because they cast Kristen Bell, which means the show becomes automatically big. And then during the strike, the writer's strike, I get pregnant for the first time after 7 years of IVF. And I get to be pregnant with my first child while we're shooting my first huge TV show that I get on the air. And so sometimes I think we just don't... Oh, thank you. Sometimes I think our dreams are limiting. You don't even know how good it could be if you get out of your own way and let sort of the universe show you what it can be.
I don't feel like, Sarah, either of you are in the business of thinking small, though. And I'm interested as to what we talked about at the very beginning, this is a flywheel, while you're helping produce, but you're also, picking up the other bits of the conglomerate empire that both of you have built together already. How is Favorite Daughter doing at this time? How are you picking up the pieces while writing is going on for Erin?
Listen, we divide and conquer. That's kind of our special sauce. We've learned how to communicate a lot better. But yeah, listen, Favorite Daughter is not a side hustle. We started it kind of thinking, we're not really fashion girls. Are people going to want to buy clothes from us? And it turns out, because we're not fashion girls, most people are not fashion girls. Most women want to feel put together and they want to feel pretty, but most girls are not sitting front row at fashion shows.
They want to be comfortable.
They want to be comfortable.
And are intimidated by fashion.
Yeah.
That's us.
That's us. And I think that's why you see a lot of brands, frankly, fail, who have influencer celebrities as their founders because a lot of them aren't wearing the clothes, right? They're selling
if you're
one
buying
thing.
Prada and Dior, but you're making clothes for Target, nobody is going to. The disconnect is felt.
Yes.
So we made clothes for ourselves.
We're wearing Favorite Daughter right now because
she's wearing Favorite Daughter right now.
And we didn't even ask her to. And it not only really represents who we are as people authentically, but it also is something that we take very seriously as a full-time job. So if I'm in the writer's room every day, which I am, Sarah is in the fittings every day while I'm there. And then sometimes we do 8 a.m. proto-review meetings for Favorite Daughter in the writer's room before the writers get in, and they come in and there's like a model in there, and they're really thrilled. And so we find ways to get it all done, but it's never, you can't ever take your foot off the gas. You can't take your eye off the ball. It's not that we don't trust the people around us, but it's not their job. If you work for a company, you care to the extent until you get the next job. But this is our company.
Well, so also, if it fails, we're never gonna have another fashion brand. This either works.
I think I was in the middle of something like really profound.
Oh, was it? Okay.
You know what?
Sorry,
it's gone now.
No, but what I was saying was Favorite Daughter is not a side hustle. I mean, Favorite Daughter...
Can you give us a size and scope, how well it's doing?
I mean, we're going to do $150 million in retail sales in 2026. Yeah. This is a business that we were profitable year 2. And we kind of, I don't want to say we hacked the system, but as everybody knows, it's all about customer acquisition costs and how expensive it is to acquire a customer. So we have just sort of been trying to find creative ways to mitigate that cost.
Without compromising the quality.
Never.
What happens when you get to this size is that you start having people say, if we change it to this instead of that, you can save this and you can save that. And when I say we're in the business of saying yes, that's where it stops. We are in the business of saying no to compromising quality because we all know as consumers, you love something and then 5 years later you're like, why isn't this good anymore? Why doesn't it fit the same way? It's because it's profit over quality. And we are not in the profit over quality business because you can't sustain a business that way.
We also have great partners. We're in a joint venture with Centric Brands, which is, without them, there's no business.
Yeah. I have to say, it took all of 3 seconds. I walked in and Sarah was like, hi. Look at me. She was like, that's ours, isn't it? And I was like, yes. And I have to say, I've never had so many comments from my wonderful producers in my life before. So
we tried to offer to give her stuff for free, but she says it's illegal.
Not allowed. Ethics. Not got to stick by it. But what's interesting is ultimately you're resonating, aren't you? In any of, both with each other, and I want to understand that a little bit more for our audience, because not every sibling partnership works beautifully. But then there's also the element that you built content that people wanted at that moment. You're building content. You're on episode 221 with the podcast now. Clearly, you are engaging with an audience who want to hear from you and want to buy from you and want to understand you a little bit more. They want to buy the companies that you're investing in as well. Was there a moment? How do you think you ultimately get that feedback loop from your own consumer? How do you understand them so well?
I mean, we are in the DMs with our customers. So if somebody writes Sarah and says, hey, this belt doesn't feel like I thought it was going to feel, we don't delete that message. We take that to the entire team and we look at the belts and go, why wouldn't that belt feel the way that it's supposed to feel? Why doesn't that pant look as long as it's supposed to be? I mean, there's nothing that we don't think is important. We are the consumer, right? We didn't go to business school. We are coming at this from people who are buying things and want to make people happy who are buying our things. We want people to be happy with what we do. So we are in constant conversation, and then you have to balance that with being true to yourself. And that doesn't mean that everyone is going to like what we say or like what we make. So we have a podcast episode. We stay true to ourselves. Some people like it. Some people don't. And you kind of have to live with it.
It's all about engagement, too, right? That's why we're talking so much about the micro-influencer now. I mean, you guys would be shocked if you knew the people that move the needle the most for us at Favorite Daughter. It's not the people you think. It's not the people with 100 million followers. It's like the mom in Dallas who has 30,000, 40,000 followers, but she has such high engagement because she has a trusted audience. Erin and I don't have millions and millions and millions of followers, but we have an engaged community. So therefore, we can have dialogue with our followers, or I don't want to call them fans. I think that's weird. But
I have a lot of fans.
When we go out in the world, we welcome feedback because we're nothing without them. We're nothing without without our community, truly. So when we're out, I never understand when people are like, I'm eating. It's like, put your fork down and talk to the person that is...
I actually don't love to be talked to.
I know, you...
But you'll put your fork down.
Well, I do, because we spent so many years just having nobody paying attention.
Being barely famous?
We had so many years where I would have loved for someone to come up to me and have anything to say to me about something that I've made them feel. So it's like we're in that moment now, and I just don't ever want to take it for granted. So
that's true.
And that moment of success has been sort of electrified through Nobody Wants This, and that came down to Netflix. How many studios had you pitched with the actual written word?
Yeah, we pitched this show to Hulu, to FX,
whoa, you're gonna name
Apple, to
Names. We're in business of naming names.
Okay, Hulu, FX, Amazon, Apple.
You in the audience? Anyone from there?
Where else?
Yeah, where's David Ellison? Did we pitch it to Paramount? I don't know if we pitched it to
pitched it everywhere, and everyone said no. And I was ready to move on. I was like, okay.
And the feedback was, it feels small.
Yeah,
like it feels niche. And Erin's like, but that's the kind of writer I am. You know, she's been accused for so many years, like, you write like a playwright. She's like, but those are the characters we connect to. Like, she lets scenes breathe. Like, that is what people actually want.
But 10 million views in 4 days is not niche. Yeah. And so therefore, I'm interested as to, at this moment where, I think it was last year, Sarah, I think you said, we're in this moment perhaps where we can celebrate vulnerability within men. It might be said in this global context that's not what's being celebrated in quite the same way. And I'm interested as to what you think about season 2 that's going to resonate at this moment too.
Well, there is a lot of vulnerability in the Noah character in the show. I think that for sure my experience with my husband, I had never been with a man who was confident in himself and also emotionally mature and available and open with how he feels and very clear about how he felt about me. That was a new experience for me. So I learned how hard it is to be with a healthy person, because when you're with, am I allowed to say asshole?
You're allowed.
Just did.
Right, okay. If you're with an asshole, everything is their fault. Nothing is your fault. When you're with someone who's actually present and available, you have to show up and be present, available too. You don't get to storm out of a room. You don't get to scream at them and be unreasonable. You have to show up like they're showing up. So I tried to write about that kind of relationship as a sort of nudge to all of us to remember that that kind of relationship exists. Because I always thought there was 2 options: someone who you're really passionate about who treats you terribly, or someone who you're bored with who treats you wonderfully. And there's a third option. There's a great person out there who treats you really well, who's also fun to go to bed with at night and laugh together and watch TV. And that's what my husband and I were watching Love is Blind last night, and just so happy. And we were looking and we were like, how do we get so lucky? And it's not like it doesn't just happen. You have to constantly work at it. But there aren't a lot of shows that tell that story.
The constant work. And you guys do
it's
show
not
the
like
constant
romantic,
work.
but I actually think it is romantic.
But I think we have to tip our hat and give Netflix their flowers, because what Ted and Bella are doing over there, I mean, who knows what the show would have been somewhere else? I mean, Netflix has a reach. They are so skilled at marketing. It's a machine like nowhere else.
Well-oiled.
Like nowhere else.
And I'm interested, Sarah, is bringing up daughters and leading businesses, investing in female-founded, minority-founded businesses, having been creative directors and helpers at Bumble. Do you think this is the moment where companies are leaning into female content, female media?
Well, there's a whole demographic of women that have been basically invisible, and that is like 45 and up, right? Like there's been this whole demo of women.
Which, to be clear, is not our demo.
Yeah, that's not us yet, okay? But it is very soon. But there's been this, they've been invisible. And by the way, I mean, I don't want to, I'm gonna not get this right, but I think there's something like $30 billion in market share just up for that demographic. Like, we're talking about women's health in a way that we've never talked about. We're giving platforms to women who are that age. We're producing a movie right now in development, and the star, we're talking about women who are like 50 and not as like the older person, just as like the hot woman. You know, we're just women. It's a different time for women in all aspects. And it's so exciting, because we were raised in a generation where it's like, oh, you hit 40 and it's like, oh, I hope you had it all figured out by then. We're just getting started at 40.
Yeah.
We're just getting started. We've run out of time, but there's a series 3. There's a new maybe there's another venture fund.
We're definitely going to raise.
How is this flywheel keeping on going? Give us.
So we really like to say that that our flywheel, the same girl or guy, actually, a lot of guys listen to the podcast. If you want to learn about women, you listen to our podcast, guys. But it's the same woman who's buying Favorite Daughter, who's listening to our podcast, who's buying the consumer products that we invest in, who's watching the show. I mean, more people are watching the show than doing any other stuff, but it all feeds each other.
But right now, I mean, not announcing anything new, we're just trying to stay focused and present on the things that we're doing now so that we can continue to do them in a way that we're proud of.